morning. This is a Ford Ranger that has been sitting in the woods for about a year and a half or so. Because it is an older Ford Ranger, you just spit on it, put some gas in it, new battery, and it turns right on. So as you guys heard in the beginning of the video, this is a Ford Ranger that has been sitting for quite a while in a pretty messy place. And as you saw from the opening clips, it definitely spent a long time exposed to the elements, but you know, that's why it's with me here today. We're going to bring this thing back to life as best as possible. So go ahead and sit back, relax. This should be a very fun before and after detail. It kind of all started with it coming in for a very thorough inside and out deep clean, but as I went through the entire detail and got that layer of dirt and grime off, realized it was oxidized, I just felt like doing a little test spot with some perfect finish in the yellow pad, and it was night and day difference. And I told the owner, yo, I want to do this, I'm not going to charge you anything more. He was like, you know what, keep the vehicle for a little longer, have at it. And that's exactly what we did. So it was a lot of fun. Stay tuned towards the end so you guys can see the after footage. As for now, we got to get these wheels back to life. We're using some Iron Decon P&S brake buster as well as some Meguiar's D101 all-purpose cleaner to get these things nice and cleaned up. So enjoy. Had to act on the fly because my pressure washer had died, and I have another one of these cheapo electric ones sitting inside the shop. I took the internals for, well, the externals I guess from the old one, zip tied it here, and then we're good to go. My gosh, alright, let's start on the paint. Now this car definitely needed a pre-treatment, that's what we're going to be doing with the pump sprayer and some Meguiar's D101 all-purpose cleaner diluted 4:1. It's pretty simple, we're just going to spray it on, let it sit for about a minute or two and dwell, and then spray it all off when we do our first initial rinse. couple different ways you can do a pre-treatment on a car. Just in this case, we're going to be using the pump sprayer as well as some degreaser. I guess you could say all-purpose cleaner, doesn't really matter, but you can use foam cannon as well. The main thing here is we just want this dirt and grime to come off a lot easier than it would be if I were to just take a blatant pressure washer and start blasting it. And yes, it is satisfying to watch, but honestly we just don't want it there whenever we come to do a hand wash. All that's going to do is take all of that dirt and just start smashing it into the paint, making the damage we already have even worse. Now the bed of the truck was in worse condition than the rest of the car, so when it came to the cleaner, I went ahead and sprayed it on, let it sit for about 3 to 4 minutes instead of 1 to 2, and then I took a brush and worked it in because the dirt that was in the bed was definitely laid on a lot thicker than the rest of the car. Now that we've done the pre-treatment, we can kind of move on business as usual by foaming down the car using Sonar Car Care's Moab. This is one of the newest products from Sonar Car Care and I'm actually in love with it. It's a fantastic pH neutral soap. If you're interested, check the link below. I have one in the description. Click it, get you some. Seriously, it's an awesome product. Give it a shot. But with that foam on the paint, I'm going to go around with some Meguiar's D101 and a Boar's Hair detail brush and make sure every nook, cranny, crevice, trim, whatever it is, gets nice and cleaned up. Think of it as almost like a second version of a pre-treatment, but really what I'm doing is using the foam as a lubricant with the Boar's Hair detail brush. That way those bristles aren't just scratching into the paint. And if you look closely as I go through and brush down the trim pieces, it's really dirty. It definitely needed a good scrubbing. if you look at my hands as we go through this process, I'm actually using two different kinds of brushes. I have one horsehair brush that's going to be cut a little shorter, so that way it's a much stiffer bristle, and then I have my Detail Factory one that's much longer, more softer, more gentle, and I'm going to switch between the two depending on what I'm doing. So if it's a trim piece where I know it's dirty, those pores inside that plastic are all nasty with a bunch of crud, then I'm going to use a stiffer bristle so that way it can really give some good scrubbing to it. But if it's an area that's mostly paint oriented, so like the front bumper or where the windshield wipers are, then I'm going to use the softer brush so that way it's not as damaging to the paint. After all of that pre-treatment work and being very careful, going through, making sure every nook and cranny is clean, it has led us to this point here where we can do a nice, safe, and effective hand wash. Now to some it might seem a little ridiculous that I've gone this far for a Ford Ranger, and while you may be a little right, it's actually just because in my head this is how it's built up. It's almost like muscle memory. It's almost like a schedule of values sort of thing. I go through step by step and make sure every box is checked off, and just because it's a Ford Ranger or a Toyota Camry or whatever the heck it may be, I have this muscle memory built up so that way when a cool car comes in, like a 992 GT3, little sneak peek there, I can wash it safe and effectively without having to worry about damaging the paint. And not to say a Ford Ranger isn't a cool car, I thought this one was actually really cool and I had a lot more fun with this than a lot of other cars I've done. Surprisingly enough, when I did the mechanical decontamination step, which, real quick by the way, if you hear any detailers say that, it's just a fancy way of saying I diddled a clay bar, this thing was actually not that badly contaminated. I was expecting way worse because of the kind of stuff that was sitting on the paint for as long as it did, but honestly it was a really quick clay session. Went ahead and used my microfiber towel that I used for washing with car soap as a lubricant, rinsed it off again, and ended up pulling it inside, and this is where things start to unravel down a rabbit hole of me and a polisher as usual, and kind of breaking the budget, and blah 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 blah. You can actually hear it. Hear that? And then over here, it's nice and smooth. Sandpaper smooth. Now that it's inside, we can dry it off real quick, use my air gun to go ahead and blow all that water out of the crevices. I've recently picked up the Tornado. I think I've kind of went over this. It's like this blowgun tool that kind of burbles around really cool. I've been recently using this to clean off wheels and tires, so that way if it is a quick job in and out like this one originally was planned, it kind of has dry tires so I can put on dressing. Not just that, but water spots kind of suck on nice clean wheels. So I've decided to last minute hit this real quick with a polish. No crazy paint correction, just enough to bring back this look versus that look. That's what I want. I want this nice crisp clear coat that looks so gorgeous in this color. So this is why I want to polish it right here. See how cloudy this is from oxidation and how that side looks so good when it's wet? That's why I want to hit it with a polish. We're going to be using a yellow pad with Sonax Perfect Finish and quickly just buzz through and get it nice and glossed up and clean. No perfect correction. And then we'll top it with something. I'm not sure yet, but I got this thing till 7 o'clock. Interior won't take long. So let's do it. Don't really need to do a paint inspection because you can kind of just see it as it is. So polishing this car was not as simple as grab a pad and polish and start buzzing away at it. There were a couple things that went into this thought-wise, and I want to fill you in on that. So two things immediately come to mind whenever I saw this thing. It was A, it's going to have on the softer side of paint because it is a domestic vehicle, and B, with it being older and softer paint, probably has pretty thin paint. So we definitely want to use a lighter polish, and we settled on Sonax Perfect Finish because not only is that a lighter polish, but the gloss you get from that is just fantastic, especially for a single stage correction. And I wanted a pad that was on the softer side, but had enough bite to it to get rid of that oxidation. Think of it more or less like cleaning the paint and kind of removing that stuff. We're not necessarily doing any kind of paint correcting, we're initially cleaning the paint with a pad and polish. The results were astounding, honestly. That's why I just had to keep going at it. And it was at this point where I texted the customer, hey, I gotta do this. And he was like, go ahead, man. So we started going to town. as I made my way around the vehicle, it was just insane. Like, the paint came out fantastic, and just from one pass with a very light combination of products did so much correction work that it was just astounding. Now, in areas such as like the headlights, it was not as much of a drastic difference, but it was just enough difference to kind of match the paint and clean everything up. So yeah, of course paint matters, that's what's going to make the biggest difference, but don't forget about the little things you have around the rest of the vehicle. Headlights, taillights, trim pieces, heck, I even went through and polished parts of the metal grille just because that little bit of difference is what's going to make it stand out more than it would otherwise. For paint protection, I obviously didn't have enough time to do a ceramic coating or anything, nor did I have enough excess product to kind of put towards this job, but as I was going through my cabinet of different products with waxes and sealants, I remembered that Sonar Car Care sent me their ceramic-based wax, which is an awesome wax product. Just imagine Carnauba wax like you normally would have, but with SiO2 silicon dioxide infused with it, so that way it has that UV protection and hydrophobic properties that ceramic gives. Not just that, but this product is going to last anywhere between 8 months to a year or so. Just hits different, man. There is no doubt about it. That warm glow that the industry kind of talks about is very, very, very true when it comes to wax, especially when it's infused with silicon dioxide polymers like this for that ceramic effect. It's just awesome. And this color is wild too to look at. I've just fell in love with this truck. It is a little dinky Ford Ranger, but it is an awesome, cool, clean Ford Ranger. Now we have one more thing we gotta do before we put on any kind of tire dressing and wrap this baby up, and that's to restore the trim that's on it because it's pretty faded. In this case, we're gonna be using Trim Shine Ceramic from Stoner. This definitely has to be my favorite product from them because it works the absolute best for what it's supposed to do. This brings back that OEM look to trim that's been eaten away by the sun. Now granted, if it's, pretty eaten away, there's obviously a common sense point of no return, but this is definitely the prime candidate for this product because the trim definitely restored to just crazy, man. This vehicle turned out so good. And this trim product's really cool. There's a YouTube link down below too for you guys to check out. It lasts a long time through all the elements. Awesome. But that kind of brings us to the end of this video. Gotta put on some tire dressing, and that pretty much wraps it up. If you're wondering where the interior footage is, I have just the littlest amount of it, but instead of teasing you guys with just a tiny bit, I'm just not gonna put it in here because it was late, didn't get it all. That's how it goes. Anyways guys, I talked a lot during this video. It kind of turned into a how-to kind of teaching video of my way of doing things, and I just hope you guys enjoyed it. I was having a lot of fun doing the voiceover, so I kind of filled it up with that without being too obnoxious, or at least I hope. So if you liked the video, please show me by leaving a like, and if you like car detailing content or car content in general, go ahead and press subscribe and ring that bell to know every single time I upload. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, see you later. Bye bye.